Tonight we have a guest,
We have from
Steve Berry. And Steve Berry, he was part of that, a whole lot of the young people back in the hippie era, late 60s, early 70s that gathered around Phyllis Frederick and later on Adele Wolkin. They both were drawn to Baba back in the 40s, late 40s. And so he's going to share his his growing up. I'm hoping we'll get a little bit of his background, and how he came to Baba. And then he spent a lot of time in India with the mandali, especially Adi and Bauji. So he's got some good stories here. And so I'm going to start out, Steve. Uh, what was kind of your religious or spiritual background, if you had any, in growing up?
Well, like most kids of my era, post-war, I went to Sunday school every Sunday. Christian, and although I just accepted everything as face value, I had no actual internal connection to Jesus or anything like that. I just went to Sunday school because that's what my parents wanted me to. I had a good time.
Steve was one of the people that there were a whole lot of us that went to India in the early 70s, and it was a wonderful time. It was a whole era of getting sick and running around, getting to know a whole new country and meeting people from all over the world. It was very fascinating and completely new to us. And he was one of those.
Jeff Bernard Rao has joined us as well.
Yeah, and yeah, because he figures into, especially into the story about Adi. Hey, Irani.
Jai Baba Janukaka.
Jai Baba, everybody.
Yeah.
I'm very happy with you all. And I'm sorry I'm not comfortable with the phone and all that, but somehow my granddaughter has arranged it. I don't know whether it will be disconnected anytime. If it happens, so please forgive me.
So far you're doing good.
Good.
You're batting 100%.
Okay, so anyway, I was raised in that kind of environment. Had no real affinity for Jesus or God, other than I just accepted that they were real. Just accepted it because that's what my parents said. Should I carry on, or do you want to ask me more questions?
No, go ahead, and then how you proceeded from your late teens into your, into hearing about Baba and all that.
Okay, so by the age of 10, I had reasoned that God did not exist. I became an atheist. And in high school, I revisited my reasoning and decided that I really don't know one way or the other. So I became an agnostic. Then in college, like I guess a number of college students are, they're hit strongly by the basic fundamental questions. What are we all doing here? What is life for? Who am I? Where am I going? Those. And I was smitten with those questions actually pretty strongly. So that I began to pick up books about the Buddha and Eastern mysticism, kind of looking around for some answers. So I picked up a book that had a revolutionary effect on my life, and that was Autobiography of a Yogi. And as I read it, of course, it's not just simply an autobiography, it also teaches pure Vedanta, which is in essence pure Baba, like from Ramakrishna. So it was a good base of intellectual knowledge to approached my journey. And I was really taken up with Yogananda. I just fell in love with him. And I immediately signed up for his weekly lessons, and I became a student of Yogananda's. Before he died, he had written out weekly lessons for future students, and I was one of those. So I did my meditation and yoga every day, and I did secretly hope that some of those fantastic mystical experiences that Yogananda spoke about in his book, they might happen to me too. I knew they would come at some point. They didn't, not one. not one smidgen. But I didn't despair, I persevered. And after several years of this, I was taking a stroll through the forest, and I was carrying on an imaginary conversation with Yogananda, just in my mind, one-sided. Then all of a sudden, for the first time in my life, I felt this sublime presence all around me. I recognized it immediately as Yogananda, even though I'd never had anything like that before. And I was enraptured and elevated. And Yogananda gave me a message quite distinctly in words that shocked me. He said, "Your journey does not lie through me." I was taken aback. I had accepted him as my guru, and I believed his teachings that if a person wants to find God, he needs a master. And all of a sudden he's giving me the boot. I was very shocked. At any rate, I thought, okay, well, I guess I've got to keep driving down the spiritual highway and see what else is there, and maybe I'll find my master, hopefully. So fast forward, I get a couple months after that, I get a phone call one day in February 25th, 1971. I get a phone call from Tony Griss. For those of you who know Tony, this is what he said. "Hey, Steve, man, this is Tony. I just heard there's going to be a birthday party for Meher Baba. You want to come with me?" I said, "Sure." And he said he would be over to pick me up. So I said, "Well, I'm hanging out with my dad right now." He said, "Bring him along." So Tony and Sandy and my dad and I, we all joined up and went to the Meher Baba birthday party in Venice Beach, California. And it was a very lovely meeting. Don't hardly remember anybody there except for one person, Phyllis Frederick. She stood out. She had a magnificent presence. No sense of presumption on her part or anything like that. She was soft-spoken, but she really had a tremendous presence. And so then they said, okay, she gave a talk, and I really was moved by it. Then they said the announcement was made that we were going to see films of Baba. And I thought, all right. I've been reading discourses, and I was suitably impressed. So I thought, all right, it's time. And they show the film of Baba, and I watch him. And I've got nothing. I don't feel a darn thing. And it really surprised me. I expected some kind of reaction from this person who I was tremendously impressed with from his book, but I didn't feel a darn thing. And then as Baba was walking across the scene there, I heard a couple of girls behind me kind of let out a soft sigh. And I thought, what are they looking at? I turned around to look at them, and yeah, they're looking at the film, at the screen. And it was Baba. Can you hear me, Jeff?
Yeah, I hear you fine, yeah.
So yeah, they're looking at the Baba film. And I thought, well, I'm not seeing anything that's making me sigh. And it just stayed that way for the rest of the film. I remained utterly and completely unmoved. And I thought, well, I'm sure he's a great spiritual master, but obviously not for me. So contrary to my experience, Tony Griss had a mystical experience of seeing Jesus, and he became bonkers for Baba. So after that, during the week, he calls me up and he says, "Hey, they're going to have Baba meetings in Pasadena. They're having them. Let's go over Friday night and check it out." And I said, "Well, all right, I didn't have anything better to do that night." So I said, "Let's go." So we went. And at the Baba meeting, I really began to feel quite uplifted. In fact, a little bit tipsy, you could say. So I went around, and in the ensuing meetings that I would go to, I always had this kind of response. But every time I looked at a Baba film or a Baba photo, I didn't feel a darn thing. I mean, nada. So, but I thought, well, I'll give Baba a chance. Maybe he's for real. I bought every Baba book in the store and went to meetings for months on end. And finally, I reached a point where I said, well, how can you follow a master if you can't believe what he says, that he's really the avatar? I could accept Baba as a master, but the avatar claim was just a little bit too tall for me. I couldn't quite buy it. So I thought, well, it's time for me to hit the spiritual trail and keep on looking. Just then I got a phone call from some friends in Vermont and said, "Hey, we have a place up here, Mount Stowe, and we're skiing, so why don't you come and join us?" I thought, great, because once I'm on the East Coast, then I can hitchhike down to Mayhair Center, that place that Baba said was his home in the West, where he would never leave, and I'll give my final tryout with Baba, see if he's for real or if he isn't. So that was my game plan. And as I hitchhiked down the eastern seaboard going toward the Mayhair Center, every time I got out on the road, I shot up a little prayer. "Okay, Baba, I don't know if you can hear me or not, but I'm on my way to your home in the West. So I'm looking to find out, is you for real or is you ain't for real?" I didn't get any response. I didn't expect to. But I sent that prayer out at multitudinous stops along the journey. Then all of a sudden, there I am getting let out of the car at about 8 o'clock at night is Elizabeth's house. And Elizabeth and Kitty were there waiting for me. So I went in, they gave me some tea and something else. And thus began my stay at the center for a week and a half, wherein I was going to find out for real if Baba was genuine or not. And this was it was a challenge. You need to show me Baba, otherwise I'm gone. And it was not an egoistic challenge in the sense of you got to do this for me. It was, I need to know. I really, really am desperate to find out, are you for real or are you not? So the days begin to go by. Everything's nice. People are nice. Go to the barn, go to the lagoon cabin, but still, I'm not feeling anything for Baba. And then I began to feel despondent. And then I began to feel depressed. Then I began to feel desolate. And I didn't want to hang out with anybody. I just avoided everybody and stayed by myself. And this went on for several days. And finally, one night, I got up and I walked out to the barn after hours. Don't tell Jeff. And
wait, I'm calling on this.
I walked out there.
Retroactive.
Yeah. And I walked out there and I shouted to Baba upward. I don't know why. Just didn't think he was in the ground. But I looked up. I shouted, "What the hell are you doing to me? I come here to your place, and here I am feeling miserable." And that didn't seem to help either. So I went back to my cabin. I thought, all right, I'll stick out for the number of days, then I'm gone. The next morning I wake up and I'm sitting on the steps of the near cabin, just all by myself, just chin in my palms. And all of a sudden I I stood up and I looked straight ahead, and right in the air in front of me, maybe like 3 feet away from me, I saw a face materialize. Now, believe me, I'm as psychic as a rock. I don't get these kind of things ever. But there, this face materialized. It was an old, wrinkled up woman. And for some reason, it didn't shock me. I guess Bob had just put me in a space where I just accepted what was, what the film was showing. Anyway, I look at this person and I just face only. And I thought, boy, she looks familiar somehow. And as I gazed into her face, I realized, oh my gosh, that was me long ago. Wow. And as soon as I had that recognition, then immediately I got the feeling of what that entire life was all about. It just washed over me. And I can tell you what that life was about pleasure, pain, suffering, effort, lots of effort. And then no sooner did I have the recognition when another face pops up. And this went on, and every time I had the recognition, oh yeah, I remember me now. Again, the feeling of that birth washed over me. So I got the essence of what that life was. There was a lot of struggle and effort in every single life. And finally, this whole thing catches up with me, and I'm right now, here I am, yours truly, Steve. And I could feel that I'm in this giant river of life, and all souls are traveling in this river along with me. And we were going that way. I was actually facing the lake, but I thought that then a question popped in my head, more like I just heard a voice say, where are we going? And then, to my surprise, I looked up in the sky, and everything turned the most exquisite, intense, but very subtle pink color everywhere. It was really beautiful, I have to say. And then as I looked up further, I looked into the pink and I perceived more deeply into it. And I could see through my gross eyes, I could see formless awareness. Exquisite, beautiful, formless awareness, filled with knowledge, exciting knowledge, but very peaceful, a thrilling place, this state of formlessness. And the beauty was utterly exquisite. No form, but dancing awareness, so excitingly beautiful. I'd never seen anything that beautiful or even close to it in my life. Then I stayed in that place for a time. I imagine gazing upward. I didn't have any bodily consciousness really. And perceiving this, oh yeah, the other thing is, boy, did I see life. Wow, this formless place, it's a state of being, and it is so alive, exquisitely alive. You wouldn't think so, something that's formless, but nonetheless, that's where the real life is, brothers and sisters. So this continued for a while, and then all of a sudden, I found myself thinking again, wow, what did I see? Oh my, I'd slipped down out of my perception. And I thought, oh my gosh, Bob is showing me who he is. Wow, he is formless consciousness, awareness, beauty, knowledge. Wow. And then I reflected for a moment that I had seen with all their struggle and effort. And I realized that compared to where we are all going, all that stuff from the past is only like a few grains of dirt in the palm of my hand. I didn't see that it was an illusion. I didn't get that exalted state, but it just seemed in comparison that it was like grains of sand, grains of dirt, like not really amounting to much. I also realized that I got an insight into what Jesus in the New Testament said when he said, I am come that they may have life and have it more abundantly. Well, I had heard that in Sunday school and it sounded pretty mundane, pretty boring. But now it was really exciting. There is the real life. And I looked around me at the trees and I could see other people walking in the distance and birds and all that. And I could see all this life around me. And I'll tell you, it seemed like just a faint smidgen of the real life, just a faint reflection. And so after that, I continued to reflect on this experience. I was pretty amazed. And I now really had a nice feeling for Baba. Whereas before I didn't. And I went to the films that night. They showed films of Baba, of course. And this time I heard myself sighing when I saw Baba on the screen. So,
wow.
At that
point, the steps of the near cabin will never be the same for me.
nor I, brother.
So, did you have any more that you wanted to add there? Or did you bring this up with Kitty and Elizabeth at all? Or did you pretty much keep it to yourself?
I just kept it to myself. I didn't tell a soul.
Yeah. And now, what about your times in India? Anything to add on to that, or your times going to India? We got Janardhan also, who was with you on that fateful drive.
I'm sorry, who?
Janardhan. He's right. Do you see him on the screen there?
No, I see you, Jeff.
Oh, do you have? Can you get a gallery?
Oh, let me see. Gallery.
He was with you and Jack on that trip.
I think it's in the right-hand corner on the top, Steve. I believe that's where it usually is, right, Prakash?
Well,
yeah, depends on the thing that you're using. I mean, I think Steve is using a phone, right?
Yeah, I'm using a cell phone.
Oh, he's using a phone. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a bit different.
You and Jack and Janardhan were Rao. You were in. Yeah.
In Guntur.
Yes, in Guntur. Go ahead.
No. He's here, but you guys were on. Well, any mandali stories that come to mind? Okay.
Well, I have some things, but go ahead. Why don't we let Janardhan have a chance to talk and share?
Well, I thought he would come. Oh, go ahead.
Steve, why don't you set the stage for how you got to India and your relationship with Adi like you did for us, and then that can lead into what happened after his passing. You want to do that?
Okay. So anyway, at that point, after that experience at Mayor Center, I was smitten with Baba. And I was so grateful that he really showed me he was for real. And to just, let alone me, to be associated with a being of this magnitude was filled me with intense gratitude. And I wanted to give back in some little way. So I thought, well, I'm going to do find some Baba work project to do something. At that time, Erwin Luck was living in the Bay Area out in Concord, east of Berkeley. And he had, as most of you know, he had gone all over India and Pakistan and I think Iran and in Europe. And he had recorded the Baba stories of all the people that he could find that had met Baba. And he had put these on tape. He and Dr. can't remember his name, the Sufi fellow. Anyway, they too.
Farhad Shafa?
Yeah, Farhad Shafa, correct. So the two of them went. And I'm telling you, they got gold. So some of these people you met there, they just kept their mouths shut. You had no idea of the amazing, truly amazing experiences that they had of Baba's love and compassion, and even a fair number of mystical experiences. Baba said he didn't come to give those kind of things, but he was pretty generous. But of course, these people were people who had met him and, had a closeness to him that I certainly didn't have. I don't have. But anyway, so Erwin had taken all those massive amount of tape recordings, and he was working on a project to make 6 reel-to-reel copies of everything, the whole enchilada. That's a lot of tape. And he needed some people to come up and help him. So I just volunteered. So I went up there to live for 4 months with Erwin and got really excited about doing Baba work. And plus it was delightful for anybody that's worked for Erwin. He can be a little bit of a slave driver. I mean, he can really push you to get the most, but I got to say it was delightful pushing. I loved Erwin, and every day was really sublime. They're just immersed in Baba stories all day from the mandali and other people who had met Baba. It was like unbelievable. So it was not as good as sitting in Mandali Hall, but somewhat like that. So I got pretty excited about that. And when I got back to Los Angeles area, I hooked up with my old buddy, Jack Small. And we decided that we wanted to make tape recordings available for people. So we did a tape presentation by Don Stevens, and we sold it all over the country, not for profit. And did another one with Padre, duplicated some of his talks and sold them all over, etc. And we began to feel, Chris Pearson and I began to feel very strongly that, we don't want to see the Avatar's teachings get distorted again by religion. So we better capture as many talks as we can of the mandali and preserve them and for later distribution. So thereupon, Chris and I set out on this path of going to India for, I don't know how long Chris went when he would go. I wouldn't go together. He would go for a couple of months, and I would go for 3 to 4 months, 3 to 5 months every time I went. And so accordingly, I recorded every talk that Adi gave at the Ahmednagar Center. On Friday, he had an afternoon talk. And I was there setting up in Mandali Hall before Eruch spoke every weekend. So we amassed a huge volume of tapes, and I gave them all to Chris for safekeeping and later distribution. You can talk to him about that. In the course of spending all that time taping Adi, I got to know him. He got to know me. I actually felt a little intimidated by him because he seemed so powerful, so regal. And I didn't feel the buddy feeling that I felt with Eruch. But the more I got to know Adi, the more his charming side came out. Wow, Adi could be a charmer. As a quick aside, I remember on our way to, on one tour to Hyderabad, some fellow was there proclaiming himself as a perfect master and deluding Baba lovers. So Adi went there to sort things out. And on the way over, we're in our train compartment reserved for, at that point, it was Chris Pearson, Jack Small, myself, Adi, 4 of us. And an Indian family with 3 little kids tries to come in our compartment, which we had paid for. And we said, no, this is our compartment. You can't come in. But they begged and pleaded, no, there's all the other compartments are filled and we paid for it. And here's my ticket, but the conductor can't find a place. Can we just sit here for a few hours? And Adi said, yes, of course you can. So matter settled. And then Adi said, oh, and so where are you from? Starts off real innocuously. Where are you from? Oh, what do you do there? And this and that. And he was very sweet and very charming. And the kids were giggling and the mother and father are chatting it up with Adi. And pretty soon he's talking about Mayor Baba. I swore to myself at the moment I would remember the process of how Adi did those transitions. But I don't remember now. So anyway, so he could be extremely charming, not just fiery as he was in some of his talks, but he could also be sweet as can be. So I got to know that side of Adi, and as a result of doing all those recordings and visiting him often at his office at the trust compound, I had gotten to know him, and so I got to go on that trip and see his other sides. Let's see, Adi at the Ahmednagar Center. Well, I don't want to say anything that's a repeat of something I may have already said, so stop me if you've heard this. But Baba had emphasized, remember me more and more, and still yet more. And so the question was periodically put to Adi, well, Adi, what's the best way to remember Baba? You were with him for most of your life, and since you were like 18, so what's the best way? Repeating his name, looking at his photos, what? And Adi made it very clear. He said, anything and everything that reminds you of Mayor Baba is the best way to remember him. So attending talks or talking about him or reading books or seeing films or anything and everything that reminds you of him. And to that end, I in a private conversation with Adi, he never, as you know, the mandali and Baba never put any emphasis on meditation. But Adi mentioned to me in his office one day that for those of you that remember his office, now Adi's family owned the whole trust compound. That was Kushru quarters, his dad's Kushru quarters. And it was a nice, spacious compound. Later, Adi gave it to the trust for trust work. So the whole place is filled up. Bau's family was there. Westerners, Jack and others were living in other rooms in the trust compound. And Adi had reduced his vast number of space, the vast amount of space, down to one room, his office, and his bed was in the back far corner of his office. Desk in the front, bed in the back. And so anyway, we were sitting in there one time talking, and he mentioned that somehow the topic came up. He said that he gets up every morning at 4 o'clock, and for 2 hours from 4 to 6, he throws a blanket over his head and sits there and remembers Baba intensely. And I remember thinking to myself, well, here's a guy that's immersed in Baba work from morning till night. Baba's always on his mind, and still he can't get enough. He wants quiet time with Baba. And it made me think of, meditation, that, although no emphasis was made about formal meditation, sort of informal meditation of remembering Baba, thinking of him. That is certainly something that Adi was doing. And so meditation became a good practice and process for me. Meditating on Baba alone. Anyway, so the meetings, for those that attended those Ahmednagar meetings, they were lively, and Adi always gave a great talk. I remember one time when Marta's heard this story, but it's a good one. So in those days, there were hardly any Indians. It was mainly Westerners and young Westerners, 20 somethings, a lot of long hair, a lot of beards. And we'd all be sitting, you know what, maybe what, Jeff, 40 people in the room? Is that what you remember?
Yeah, yeah. Just
Okay.
about all of it.
So
Oh, I got
all
it.
sitting cross-legged. And so Adi would be sitting up on a little dais there in a chair talking. And suddenly in the middle of the room, this guy, this Westerner, gets up and he starts stepping through and around people that are all seated and gazing up at the walls on the side where Baba's photos are hanging at a 45-degree angle. And he's looking at them and admiring them and stepping through people, and it's creating a disturbance. So Adi, well, you know, he didn't waste any time. He was quick. He said, "Sir, may I ask what you're doing?" And this kid says, "Yes." He said, "I received inner guidance from Baba that it was okay for me to get up and look at his photos." Well, now who can argue about inner guidance, right? Wrong. Adi immediately said, so fast, I mean, it was just like almost instantaneously, "And I just received inner guidance from Baba that if you don't sit down, I should throw you out." So here's this old man with white hair threatening to throw this young strapling 20-something out of the room. And I mean, it was a little bit shocking. The guy immediately, I guess he reconsidered his divine inner guidance, and he sat down promptly. And it made an important, it brought home an important lesson that when people claim, yes, all of us can receive inner guidance from Baba, absolutely. But when people claim it and it's discourteous to others, or when people claim that they know what other people's bad motives are. I've heard a ton of that stuff at the LA Baba Center.
Well, Steve, we have lost
You got
you.
muted, Steve.
And the LA Mafia got him.
I know.
Steve, speak. We can't.
Steve, were you backbiting? Be honest.
Oh,
Let's see. What happened to?
you went on mute, Steve. I don't know why. The LA Baba Center got you.
He went on the lam.
Let's see. Where'd Steve go?
Not to LA.
Hey, while we're waiting for him to re-engage here, just to give you a flavor of Adi, and there were a couple of old friends of mine, Frank Parker and John Florence, and this was in '72, and they were very talkative guys, and you know they could both hold forth, and they were outside Adi's office waiting to go in and you know meet with him. And you know they're talking away, and then someone comes out, so they realize it's oh well, let's go in. And they go in and they find Adi sitting in his chair with his eyes closed, like in a state of meditation. And they come and they come in and they apologize profusely. "We didn't know. Sorry, we didn't know you were in here meditating. We wouldn't have been out here talking." And they're just apologizing, profusely. And Adi looks at him and says, he had that finger that was kind of bent like that. He said, "I do not subscribe to that form of meditation that does not include noise. I do not subscribe to that form of meditation that does not include noise." Now, oh good. Steve, try speaking again. You're still silent.
Can you hear me now?
Ah, good. We got you.
For some reason, the call just got dropped. I don't know why.
Yeah. Have you paid your bills lately?
Hi, Rosie.
We thought you were an imposter, Steve.
I am. Let me assure you of that. Anyway, so it just confirmed when Adi said that so quickly, it just confirmed. I got the impression that he's heard this one before, and he's tired of it. People getting all these messages from Baba to do weird things, and of course, I'm not going to mention anybody's name, Rosie, but no, just joking. But over the years doing Baba work at the LA Center, there are quite a few people who got divine inner guidance from Baba about other people's bad motives and all that stuff. And they were inevitably wrong, but stuff goes on. So it just taught me that one has to be very careful about claims of divine inner guidance. And I'm sure we can all have it, but it's better when it's just kept to ourselves. So that was a fun story of Adi. But then moving back here to the final journey with Adi. So this time we went to Guntur, and it was amazing. So many people that Adi knew and knew well. I remember before I guess he got up and he gave a talk at first. There were about 400 people in attendance at Guntur, and opening up a new Baba Center, and this is Southeast India. And then it was time to eat, and they had all these food was being served on big, I guess, banana leaves, something like that, and big leaves. And Adi went up and down. It was on tables, and there were rows of chairs, and Adi went up and down chatting with people in a friendly, jovial way, and visited with all these people there, having a great time. And he was completely energized and had more energy on this particular trip. Those accompanying Adi were Jack Small, Robert Dreyfus, and myself, and we were all commenting to ourselves, where does this old man get all of his energy? We cannot keep up with him. We just couldn't do it. But that's Adi. He was on fire for Baba. But then went to our great shock and amazement. Adi passed away in Guntur. Then we had to, Jack called up Eruch and notified him and asked what to do. And Eruch said, get Adi in a car with you and drive back here as fast as you can. And then became a transcontinental journey as fast as we could, with Adi wrapped in sheets, sitting in the middle in the back seat. Now,
You mean
Sharma,
like sitting up as if he were still alive? No.
correct. The car belonged to Shastriji from Hyderabad, and he was driving, and me on one side in the back, Jack on the other, Robert in the front seat.
Steve, how did Adi die?
Adi in the middle.
Steve, how did Adi die?
He had a severe heart attack, Marta.
In his room?
Yes.
I see.
We tried our best to save him. When we called for a doctor, the doctor came, and when he came upstairs, Adi's breath was starting to get less and less deep, more shallow. Doctor comes in, and I said, what can you give him? And the doctor opens up his medical bag, and it's almost empty. Well, Guntur was not a well-developed area. And so I guess, the doctor was doing the best he could, but he was completely unprepared for anything, couldn't give Adi an ejection of any sort. But fortunately, I had been a lifeguard in college. And so I knew CPR very well. and I began doing mouth-to-mouth resuscitation with heart massage, and I continued that for quite some time. We realized once the doctor had no way of being of any medical assistance whatsoever, we realized we needed to get Audie to the hospital fast. So we called for a taxi. We got him in the taxi. First of all, we made a makeshift transport bed, and all the while I'm continuing with heart compressions and mouth-to-mouth, and all the way down into the taxi. We took 2 taxis, and I was in one. Audie was on my lap, and I was continuing. We took him into the hospital. Once we got there, I thought, oh, at last, help. And we went inside, and this giant room with a gurney way over in the corner. That was it.
Wow.
Not really well equipped, and probably because it was a poor area. That's all they had. So some hired help, maybe a nurse or something came, and they tried to help, but nobody could. At that point, in desperation, I just kept on doing what I was doing. And finally, everybody said, Steve, Audie's gone, it's over. So that was it. Devastating for us. We took it as that Audie was completely in Bob's hands. We felt no doubts about that. But then we had to make a long trek. Now, did you have something you wanted to share about that? Anybody wanted to talk about the next part of the journey?
What about, was Janardhan Rao there? Can you see him?
Yeah.
Let him come in for a moment. Yeah.
Yep.
What do you, what can you add to what Steve has said?
Yeah. Not far. They with rock riders and when we reached the room, first it was closed, then they opened the door, and I found that Adi was lying on the bed. And as our friend Steve told, people I did not notice who they were, but one after the other, everybody tried mouth-to-mouth respiration. Then after some time, I was asked to make my trial, and after that, we brought him down the stairs, the car, and that much I remember. I was carrying him. His head was on my chest, and Kashinath and Robert Dreyfus, and I don't remember now who else was there. Steve must be there, but we all carried him down the stairs and went to the car, and we to hospital. There, some people, it's all, a thing which is lost. I mean, I can't remember anything. I only saw Adi, and I was very sad that he came to Guntur. And I was in a way responsible for him to come to Guntur. I did not want him to die in Guntur, but that was a great shock for me. And
you had invited Audie to. You had invited Audie to.
Yeah. That's one of the people of him to come to MBG Shastri and his brother Mantrawal Sri Ramurthy and me, several others. When I went for Amartiti in 1980, I met Mehra, and I told him that I told her that we are going to open the center on March, and I wanted she should remember. She was said, "Power with you," and it was a beautiful program for 2 days. And he expected that after this wonderful 2 days program. Adi was there for one day in the hotel. That is 3rd March, and 4th March he was to return to Mehrabad by train. And early in the morning, at about 4 o'clock, me and my friend partner, we went to the hotel where Adi was staying. And when we reached the room, this was a scene that I just want to forget it, because it always haunts me. And almost I was carrying him down, and I felt that something like this. And of course, then when we went to the hospital, the doctors declared that he was gone. And then we offered prayers there. I offered prayers, Parvatiyar prayer by Adi's side. So that is what I remember. Very sad thing for me. Of course, death is inevitable for everybody, but I did not want him to die in Guntur, and more so, I had to carry him.
Yes, that's right.
And then Steve,
And
then
this,
you got him in the car, and then what
Well, just a
happened
second,
from there?
just a second. I just wanted to say, now I had forgotten, but you're right. We had, when we realized that Adi was gone for good, very sad realization, we did fold our hands and say all the prayers together. And that's when we completed that, that's when Jack went and made the call to Eruch. So we began hightailing it across the Indian continent.
How long a drive is it?
It's a good question. I think it took us 2 days.
Wow.
It's a long drive, and the Indian roads weren't so good then. So it was bumpy and all that. And we had to make sure that we didn't stop at any state checkpoints between states, because then we would want to process Adi's death in that particular state. Eruch warned us about that. So Shastriji, a wonderful man from, as I said, from Hyderabad, he knew his way around, and he just gave us a straight shot. We all took turns driving and sitting in the back seat, the front seat, and rotating driving, so that we drove continuously. And when we did sleep, we just slept vertical in the car.
Steve, tell him what you said when I asked you, was there any odor or anything from the body decaying for 2 days?
Yeah, at first there was no odor whatsoever, but then a very faint, sweet fragrance began to appear. It was noticeable to all of us. It was sweet, not the least bit offensive. And at that point, then after about, I don't know, maybe half a day of that, I just happened to be driving the car at the time. And as I drove into Mehrabad, there was Jal Dastur waving me to a certain place. And so I pulled over, and Eruch was there, and the whole big crowd of people. It was early morning, I don't know, about, 7 or 8 in the morning, something like that, 7 maybe. And that's when Eruch instructed us all to remove Adi's body and place his body on a cot. And then a bunch of people picked it up. Maybe you were there for that, I'm not sure. Mara and the women mandali were all waiting by a grave that had been dug in the men mandali's area. He was lowered down slowly, and he again said the prayers. Mara threw a rose and a handful of dirt, and then followed a big procession of everybody else doing the same thing. And it was farewell to our dear older brother, Adi. Really a great loss for us. But I did feel very confident, without having any divine knowledge about Baba's will whatsoever, but I did feel very confident that Baba had taken Adi, and it was not an accident of any sort.
Any other exchanges with Adi or Bhau or any of the mandali that come to mind?
Let me think. Well, let me open this up for sharing from everybody. How about you, Rosie? I'm sure you got some great stories. What was the time that you had to correct Padre when he made a mistake?
I never corrected Well, I disagreed with Padre, but
Well, let's hear about it. Let's hear how you straightened him out.
That was one pillar that I didn't care for of Maribor.
And so, how did that story go? You were near his.
No, I was at a Dooney fire when I first went to India in '76, and Shelley marriage and I were at the Dooney fire, but it just turns out, I'm used to campfires and things, it's kind of a happy occasion. Anyway, Adi came to Shelley marriage and says that we were disrespectful. So Padre never came at me. And then, but I had nightmares that night because I thought he was like stalking me, that I better head him off and I better go to him. So I caught him. He was just coming out of Mandali Hall. And I said, Padre, I says, Shelley says, you felt we were disrespectful. I says, we didn't feel we were being disrespectful. And he, like, you were disrespectful. And he was just like bearing down on me, is all I could say, this huge energy. And I says, no, we didn't intend disrespect. And he said, he says, would you act that way in front of the king? And I said, yeah. And he says, in front of the president? I said, yeah. And then he goes, in front of the king of kings? And I said, yeah. And then he just walked off, and he says, don't yell at me. And he walked off. And I went, I'm not yelling at you.
Did you shout it out to him? I'm not yelling.
Yeah.
Well, Rosie, that's when I learned. I'd always considered myself kind of a brave, outdoorsy type. But after you told me that story, I realized that I was, in fact, a big chicken. I would have never had the nerve to talk to Adi like that. So
not Adi.
Bravery is yours, my dear.
Padre.
I mean, Padre.
Padre, no, not Adi. Adi,
Yeah.
I saw a different side of Adi. I saw how he was with little children. He was so incredibly sweet and caring of, and I loved his Friday afternoon talk, and because he was in love with these guzzles, and I didn't really care to hear about God Speaks or those questions, but when he would talk about the guzzles, he was on fire. And one time he's saying this guzzle with such fervor, and this little boy that he was particularly fond of, Baba Das, he was only like 2 years old, and he was in a ski outfit, a ski cap in India, and a ski sweater. I think he was naked from the waist down. He was just a little tyke. And Adi's like bringing on this guzzle forcefully and, like fire. And he sees Baba Das, and all of a sudden he loses it, and he just makes this big smile at Baba Das. He was just totally melted. Yeah. I love that side. He was very.
You know, I had forgotten all about that, but now I remember it vividly. You're right. And Baba Das was stone naked
Yeah.
from the waist down with a heavy piece.
That's his one.
Yeah,
But,
Adi had a very powerful but a very sweet nature.
Oh yeah, yeah, and then one time when he was in LA visiting with Jack Small, I had this private talk with him, and he says not to be so hard on myself. And it was funny because after that I got this license plate, and the license plate said ADK 555. So I always remember that, not to be so hard on myself, because he was like so fiery. On the other hand, like, you know, he didn't take any guff, but you know, he was just like butter too. You know, he had both qualities. So
Yes, he did.
beautiful.
Yeah. In plentiful supply.
Yeah.
It was always endearing to watch that. I remember one time, of course, a lot of people that witnessed Adi and Jack on a tour together or giving talks and all that, they saw that Adi was kind of a little bit heavy-handed with Jack, tough with Jack. So they got the feeling like that Adi was always like that, but he wasn't. That was the public persona, so that Jack wouldn't get an inflated feeling about being Adi's right-hand man, and people wouldn't look up to him. So Adi tore him down. But then privately, Adi was very sweet to Jack.
Yeah.
Very sweet. I remember one time we were on this tour, and Adi and Chris Pearson had gone ahead of us to take care of some business in Pune. And then Jack and I were going to leave the next day on the train going to Dond. Anyway, I'm reading these comments down below that people are typing in. Classic. Sorry, back to the story. So anyway, Jack and I, the next day we get in the train and we're driving on our way to Dond to meet Chris and Adi. And this is really crucial because then we're on our way, the four of us, going across the country. So, but on the way, on the train ride, Jack and I get engrossed in talking about ourselves, and we arrive in Dond. No, different Jack. Jack Small. He's dead now. He just died 2 years ago. I'm responding to a question that popped up. So we were so engrossed in talking about ourselves that Jack and I didn't notice that we had arrived in Dond. We're supposed to be out of that train on the station looking for Adi with lots of luggage and all. And we forgot all about it. The train's getting ready to leave. And then we can hear Chris walking down the walkway by this long train, and he finally gets near us. He's going, Jack, Steve. And we go, oh. And Jack, this look of utter panic is across his face, and he goes racing out. And so we go out and we pick up all this luggage, we bring it inside, and I'll tell you, Adi was not happy. Now, some people say that, well, nobody should berate someone else or chastise them. Well, if they've earned it, then Adi could give it. But he never gave chastisement when it wasn't earned. It was very clear. Monty is the same way. Monty chastised when it was earned. Anyway, so Adi just blisters Jack, and Chris and I are sitting near Jack, and pretty soon we start edging away from him. We get as far away from Jack as possible, and Adi's just blistering. I wish I could remember some of the classic stuff. I should have taken notes. But anyway, Jack is just, yes, Adi, no, Adi, yes, Adi, yes. And this goes on for like 15 minutes. I mean, it was an amazing accomplishment being able to chastise someone so properly with a firm voice. No, I mean, no kid's voice, I'll tell you. It was a firm, fiery voice. And so Chris and I, we kept our mouths shut. We weren't going to come to the defense of our good buddy. and we just left him to hang out on his own. And then we're sitting there and we're thinking, we're not going to talk for a long time because Adi's in a bad mood. And then all of a sudden, Adi says, do we have that yogurt treat? And Jack fumbles around, nervous, and I guess it was some kind of a sweet lassi. I don't know what it was, but some kind of a treat. And we get it, and Jack hands it to Adi, and Adi says, come over here, sit next to me. So Jack does, and then Adi says, okay, now open your mouth. He takes the spoon of the treat and begins to spoon feed Jack, just like a mother would do to a child. And so with that broke all the ice, all the fear, all the discomfort just vanished, and Adi changed the tune completely by that act of sweetness. So that's Adi.
Hey, Steve, I had, going back to Padre, there's a story about Padre just to kind of, give another side of him. But Bhau Kalchuri used to say there are 3 types of people. I don't know if he got it from Baba, but one is like a peach. It's soft on the outside, but there's a pit at the core. Then there's a nut that's hard on the outside, but soft on the inside. And then the other is a grape, which is soft on the outside and soft on the inside. Well, Padre was the middle one there. It was the nut on the outside, soft on the inside. So here's the story that Tom Fortson told me. He's at Lower Maribot, and this guy shows up who's obviously traveled overland. And he shows up all, unkempt and hadn't shaved and bathed, and his clothes are all dirty. And he says, where's the tomb of the Avatar? I've come for the tomb of the Avatar. And Tom said, well, it's just up the hill there. Just go up there, the railroad tracks. And but then Tom realizes, well, he'll just accompany him up. So they start up the hill. They get about halfway up, and coming from the top of the hill down is Padre. And he's, very, very striking, tall, lean, masculine guy. And he gets within 20 feet of this guy, and he says, is this the way you dress when you come to the tomb of the Avatar? This guy looks at Padre and says, I don't let anybody tell me how I should dress when I come to the tomb of the Avatar. Padre looks over at Tom and says, I like this guy. So that, there it is, He knew when to go soft.
Yeah.
Padre, someone's trying to coach Padre into the sacred place of where he sits, and he says, this earth is...
Can't hear you, Rainey. Can't hear you.
Little louder.
This earth is blessed, Padre, says this guy. This land is sacred, and this guy is sort of trying to butter his own bread as much as praise Padre. Padre says, oh no, this land is dead because he is dead. And the guy fell over backwards. And then another guy comes up and says, Padre, and Padre says, what are you making out? I'm some sort of priest. My name is Fart. Just call me Fart. My name is Padre. Fart.
Yeah, the original name was Big Fart. You probably know that.
I didn't know that.
He would let out these almost like firecrackers. And so Jal, Baba's brother, started calling him, told Baba about this explosion, and that was Padre. So Baba called him Big Fart, and I don't know what the Marathi or Gujarati word is, but it got eventually reduced to Padre. So we thought of him as kind of a priest, but it's actually, never was that.
I am nothing but Big Fart. Do not make me into something sacred.
Yeah.
That is just right. What is wrong with you, madam? Why do you keep coming here, madam? What is wrong with you? And I'd have to make up something that was wrong because I like to be around him. So I'd make up one sickness after another, and he'd get me some homeopathic medicine. One day he says, What is wrong today, madam, other than your constant women's problems? And I said, oh, I can't memorize the left-hand side of the page, only the right-hand side of the page. Oh, just 1 minute. And this huge 6-foot guy climbs up all these little ladders and finds this little bottle and gives me this remedy. Take this for 10 days and drink no coffee or tea, and you will memorize left side of page as well as right side of page, madam. Good day.
He was
It was
great.
priceless.
And you've been
It
cured
was-
ever since?
Cured ever since.
He was a bullseye homeopath. And one Christmas I was there at Meher Colony, and I ate so much. They had all these treats, and someone had a fruit cake sent from their mother. Anyway, I ate too much. And in the middle of the night, it all came up. So I rickshawed out to see Padre. And he's sitting there, and all I could see is the rim of his glasses. He's kind of hunched there over his desk. And I was telling him, and then it all came up, and he went, "You overate. Overeating is one of the worst sins against the human body."
Yeah.
He cured me.
Yeah, classic words.
Hey, Steve, it's like 11:15 out here, but if you have just a couple of more stories, and then maybe we'll have if anything occurs to you, then we'll have a few moments of silence.
No, I think it's about it for tonight, Jeff.
Oh, well, no, we got, you could come up, you got to come up with something else. I'm just giving you a little 15-minute warning.
Oh, well, I don't know that I have any. I mean, there's a lot of material on Adi, but the thing is that I don't remember it off the top of my head like I used to, A, and B, I have a file folder with notes on it, but it's not with me. So I can't refer to it. So I don't recall.
What about the Koali nights? Tell us some stories about when we'd come for the Koali nights. Steve and his tape player and him going into bliss and forgetting he had people in the room and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So you were there at Lower Maribod, Rini. Koali night.
Oh, I'm talking about the Koali nights at Kushru Quarters.
Oh.
Yeah, and the tape players and things.
Oh, I don't think I was there for those. No, I was not. I didn't attend Koali night at Kushru Quarters, but perhaps you can tell us about it, Rini.
Oh, just that he would go to concerts and once there were cassette players, and he'd make tapes, and then he'd play them back to us, and yeah, I've got some of those tapes, and he'd forget, and then he'd just Baba, because mind you, he was doing this at the concert too, and we'd have to try and listen to them and learn these incredible ghazals and qalis off these tapes.
ఇది బంద్ చేయడం ఎట్లా నేను పోతున్నా ఇది బంద్ చేయడం
And then, remember, Steve, the spaghetti parties at Jack Small's when he opened the house with Virginia, and he'd do the spaghetti bolognese parties. I mean, he had an incredibly sophisticated palate for Southern Indian food, but then he also got into spaghetti bolognese. I think through Rob Tomaro. I'm not sure who got him into it. He'd help cook these giant pots of spaghetti with tomato sauce.
Oh my.
And it sort of became a weekly tradition at Jack Small's to have, after the opening,
Nice.
have spaghetti bolognese.
Wonderful.
But he just expected people to learn these ghazals and qalis and whatever. He sang really well, and he could play harmonium too.
Yes, Adi did. He sang beautiful ghazals, played harmonium. It was wonderful. I remember.
I've got a Padre story. Maybe some of you heard, but there was a guy named Flag Chris, you might know. He used to work out at Marizod, working on the discourses, like one of the editions. And he would come back into town, stop at the canteen, have a couple of beers, and then make his way out to Maribod. And one time he he lost track of the time, and he realized, and the curfew at Maribod was 9:30, and Padre would sit with his back to the road at Lower Maribod. I mean at the Mandali Hall. So Flag realizes, oh my God, I'm late and everything. So he gets a rickshaw and he has the rickshaw stop about a quarter of a mile down the road, and then kind of tries to sneak back on the property. And and as he's coming around, Padre, he's got ears behind his head there, and he says, "Who's there?" And Flag says,
That was a great imitation. That sounded just like Padre.
He says, "Nobody, Mister. You ain't nobody yet."
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Mister, you ain't nobody yet.
But
There was
we
another
did.
one.
We go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, you first.
Well, that you probably have heard this one. Robert Dreyfus was there assisting Audie, and he was in the office with Audie one time, and in storms Padre, and Padre starts yelling at Audie, but in Gujarati. So he's yelling and everything, and finally Audie gets provoked. He starts yelling back at Padre, and they're going at it and Robert Dreyfus is there, and he wished the earth would open, he could disappear. What am I doing here? And finally, Padre just storms out and slams the door. Audie looks over at Robert and says, "Were you troubled by that?" And he says, "Audie, I wanted to disappear. I didn't even want to be here. That was really bothered me. It was painful to witness." And Padre Audie says, "Well, it didn't bother us."
Oh, it didn't bother he or Padre.
Yeah, it didn't bother us.
Yeah.
That's the way they were.
Yeah, they were pretty well centered. I remember one time I was in Audie's office when a tall Indian man, about 6'4", very husky guy, came in and said, "Audie, I have to report some bad news on this project." And Audie said his usual, "Audie," and then this man proceeds to say it in Gujarati or Marathi, not sure which, maybe because he's embarrassed and didn't want to say how he had bungled things with some Western guy sitting there. Anyway, so he goes on and he tells a story, and Audie just gets irate, blows a fuse, and here's this big, tall, husky guy and this short, old man with white hair sitting at the desk, and this big, tall guy there, and Audie's just berating him up and down. Well deserved, believe me. You could just see as when he was explaining what bungles he had done, the looks on Audie's face were like he was horrified. So Audie just berates him up and down, and the man is standing there, this big hulking guy going, "Yes, Audie, no, Audie, yes, Audie, no, Audie," and finally Audie says, "Okay, enough, Jow," and so the man turns around and leaves, and that's when Audie turned to me, "Okay, now Steve, where were we?" Completely, not faking it, not. He had been livid with this guy. I thought a vein was going to burst or something, and then he's just calm as a cucumber. So I realized it was just an act for him, but he could put on a very convincing act.
One time Ina Lemon was there, and she was complaining about all of the conflicts and dysfunction and everything with the Baba group, I guess, in Melbourne, and she's going on, and Audie's listening very patiently. And finally, she kind of runs out of steam, and he says, better luck next birth.
But her steam had vented. That's the
Yeah,
key thing
yeah.
there. He let her steam have its course to vent, and once out,
Yeah,
then things aren't so bad anymore.
yeah.
I arrived one year and it was hell. It was like a strike, you know, and you got held up in Singapore. I used to go Brisbane, Singapore, and it was terrible. And anyway, I get there and I'm absolutely fried. I can hardly speak. And Artie comes out, you know, with his singlet, undershirt, and his towel, and a bit shaving cream and everything, and goes, "Huh? So this is what we get. We get rainy. We haven't had rain for a year. Why do we get rainy?" Another time
Cute.
I'm in that office and in come all these 4 Pune Rajneeshis when they were orange before they switched to burgundy.
Yeah, I remember.
Very annoyed when they switched to burgundy and bougainvillea. I mean, it's such a nice color, and they took it. But anyway, this is when they were orange on head to toe. Even their
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
sprayed orange, and in they come, and he says, "Oh, orange! Oh God! Oh, make me sick, orange! Get out! Get back to Pune!"
That's what Audie said?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Makes me sick. Get out! Get back to Pune!
Ah.
Back to the orange man.
Wow.
Go back to the orange man.
Well, Audie must have certainly read the situation correctly and known that any conversations with these guys was a waste of breath.
Total waste of time. Yeah.
That reminds me, one time some people came probably from Bombay in a nice van, and they pull up to Mehrabad, and Padre kind of steps out and says, "More loonies!" They said more loonies, and these people thought that this was like a mental hospital, and so they kind of got in their van and drove on. They said more loonies. Hey, well, let's have. It's kind of late now. Let's have a few moments of silence. Well, Mayor Prasad, have you got a final quote at all, by any chance?
Yeah, I can read a short one.
Yeah, doesn't even have to be short.
All right. To love God, to feel God, to know God, to be one with God is the only thing that matters in life.
Wow.
Read it once again.
To love God, to feel God, to know God, to be one with God is the only thing that matters in life.
Wow.
Let's have a few moments of silence. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Thank you, Steve. This was great. And great to remember these towering souls
Yes, delightful.
that we just somehow stumbled into their company,
We
Thank
got
you,
lucky.
Brother Steve.
Thank you,
Yes, Fred.
Steve.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Steve.
brother.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks, Jeff.
Jai Baba.
What we'll do is
Thank you, Jeff.
we're going to get Nasreen to Nasreen, you have to stay to do all the bouncer.
Oh,
But
there
one
she
thing I
is.
wanted to say, on Tuesday night, I mean, I have a thought of this topic, self-compassion, self-forgiveness, and self-acceptance. I thought it might be interesting.
Yeah.
that for
Also,
a
do
sub-
not forget the Day of Days tomorrow, the 59th anniversary of the 1st of November 1962, the East-West
Oh,
Gathering.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
ready?
Can I ask you, Jeff, a question? Do you have regular program regarding the Gotta Speak or no on Zoom?
Well, say that again.
Do you have, sorry, it's too much noises for the Halloween. Do you have regular weekly program regarding the Gotta Speak?
Yes, we do. We read every Monday.
Yes,
Pardon me?
on YouTube as well.
Every, sorry.
Do you have the link to that, Betty?
Well, it's not a link really. We read. Are you wanting to read? We read together. We read God Speaks together.
Okay, I would like to join.
Good.
To see.
Where the time is it's early, but
It's babazoom.net, right?
yes. Look at the
Just a sec. babazoom.net.
Yes.
All lowercase.
Where do you live?
In Vancouver.
Oh, that's fine. There's another. Yeah.
Vancouver, BC.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it will be.
Pardon me?
I'm thinking of the time.
What time?
Or morning, early. I think 7:30.
30. No, where?
Good. Wonder
I'll look at the. It's on our calendar. Yeah.
Okay.
So what is the password then?
Chummy. CHUMMY.
Don't go fast. CH.
Yeah. UMMY.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what is the other one? Needs two.
It's not supposed to do that.
No, not two. We're not supposed to do it online?
I don't know. I thought a password was supposed to be.
Oh, I think
cool.
it's okay over Zoom.
Oh, I don't think there's anything wrong
Anyway,
with that.
it's too late now. Okay.
Recording.
Okay.
Let's stop recording.
All right.
Private now.
Let's finish up.
Okay, so here we go. We're going to get...
Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai.
Avatar
Meher
Baba
Ki
Jai.
Jai.
Avatar Meher Baba Ki
Jai.
Baba Ki Jai.
Thank you again, Steve. That was great. Wonderful.
Thank you, Steve. Jai Baba.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Jai Bob, and to one and all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.